It's your boy. What's up, gang? I'm Chris Drew. That's my guy, Ron James, back at it with another episode. Talking all things Ohio State midweek. Can you believe we're already, week 12, week 13 of the game?
It blows my mind every time I put the graphic together and I have to put a new number up there, and it feels like we are just flying through the season. But if you root for a team like ours, you got plenty of football ahead of you. The Buckeyes still have all their goals ahead of them, plenty of games left. They still have the game against the team up north, potentially a rematch with Oregon in the Big Ten championship, and then a 12-team playoff ahead of them. And if they don't win the Big Ten championship, more games than they anticipated.
Yeah, what is it? They can play between like 6 and 8 more games, which is a ridiculous amount. And this is like kind of me getting used to like the new college football, like what it looks like, what it feels like, all these contenders being a part of it. But, week by week, day by day, little by little, Ohio State in the driver's seat. A couple quick notes. They looked the part last week, right? Like really looked the part. No drama, no stress. In fact, the only drama might have been the almost Carson Hinsman injury that I was worried about. Other than that, Ohio State really looked and felt good. A real dominating win, as they should have, over a lesser opponent.
Yeah, I mean, Purdue did them a few favors in the kicking game to make this shutout happen.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the Buckeyes did a really good job. And the two things that we talked about last week that the Buckeyes needed to focus on this week was staying healthy and rotating. And they were able to do both of those things this past week. So much so that Buckeye fans were losing their mind on the timeline because they weren't used to seeing the jack position on the field. But the Buckeyes got what they've been asking for months.
Yeah, no, they did. I mean, obviously, we saw the jack position. That was really crazy. We saw a lot, though. We saw slips on the turf. And then, obviously, we heard Joe Klatt and Gus Johnson give a real riveting take of the game. And it's funny because whenever you leave Ohio State games, Ron, and their blowouts, you always get stuff that are, like, not game-related as the major topics to that week. And honestly, it made me feel like, okay, like, Ohio State's normal, because what's the one thing with Ohio State fans? There's always something to complain about. Well, what do you complain about in a blowout dominating win? Well, the broadcast, the time of the game, and the turf. So all Ohio State fans back on the same page right now. We're complaining about things that aren't the team.
The world is healing.
Yes. Absolutely healing. I guess we've never sat really and talked about Iran, and we talk a lot, so there's not a ton that we don't talk about. But what are your thoughts on Ohio State getting the 6 straight noon kickoffs?
I mean, it's part of being the big dog, and I feel like when you look back at the media rights deal, you kind of question what were the big three. And when I say the big three, I mean the big three dogs of the Big Ten prior to these new Pac-12 teams: Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State. What were they thinking when they signed this media rights deal if they were so frustrated with having to carry the load of this media contract? Because people have been making the great point all week. This is going to be on the shoulders of Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State to carry the big noon kickoff, because what are you going to do? Play 9 a.m. games at Oregon, UCLA? So I don't think they really thought that out completely through, or maybe they did and didn't care. Fox issued their statement and said, hey, we are looking for an opportunity to add another premier window of college football, and they're doing exactly that with the Big Ten. I mean, if the big three were surprised by this and confused, they should have done a better job reading the contract. But at this point, the ink is dried, and it's their job now. And you have to get out there and play the games. And if you aren't able to find that juice to get up and play at noon, that falls on the university, and you have to find a way to increase that stadium atmosphere and allow it to be hype for these players and let them have the environment that they feel that they deserve, because you opted for the money and the noontime slot.
Yeah, you know why I hate it? I hate it because up until November is really when you want to get Cali kids up here and Florida kids up here to Ohio State. And you can't. And here's why up until November. Because in November, you don't want. I mean, here we go. Recruiting is about bamboozling kids to some degree. You want to get a kid to Ohio State's campus in the part of fall where you could get 65 and sunny, and that kid can envision playing here. You don't want to get that kid here in November when it's cold and you start to maybe see some snow. The ground's a little bit harder. It looks a little different than California or Florida. Here's the issue: Cali kids can't come to Ohio State noon games until after November starts, because that's when their playoffs end. And you cannot have those West Coast visitors for noon games because they play Friday nights and there's no way for them to get into Columbus by 9 a.m., by 10 a.m. to get the visits and everything intact. So for me, it's like it's a major recruiting disadvantage. And on the flip side, I also, I'm a big boxing guy, a big Floyd guy. People would always ask Floyd, like, why you don't wake up early? And this whole thing is, why would I wake up early? Like when I go fight championship fights, it is always, always, always at midnight. So I'm going to schedule my training and my rehearsals and my sparring about my body peaking at that time. Now, it's not that big of a thing in football, but I oftentimes wonder, like, for LSU's, for Alabama's, for Georgia's, they all get multiple home night games a year. And I think that helps prepare them for kind of that primetime atmosphere that is the postseason. So I hate it. I hate that it's 6 straight. But also, I know whose fault this is. Like, Kevin Warren's the worst. Like, we knew what it was. Like, Kevin Warren was in such a freaking rush to get this deal in, and so he can pray it around. Look, I got the Big Ten $100 million a year. It's like, well, you moron. If you would have just waited and read through the contract, you wouldn't have signed your life away for noon. Like, that's the whole thing. It's like they wanted to be the first ones out of the house. They forgot to make sure that their underwear didn't have stains on them before they left. It's like, bro, okay, like, cool. Like, congrats, you're the first one out of the house, but you smell.
Yeah, absolutely. They definitely should have taken more time and consideration into this. Or, again, I wasn't in those rooms. They may have negotiated this and said, yeah, it's something that we're willing to deal with. And, hey, if it allows us to make this much more money and compete at a higher level, I think our fans will take a better team over playing night games. So we'll see how this plays out. It doesn't seem like Fox is particularly interested in changing anything about
this.
They
sent Joe Klatt to the slaughter. They sent him to the slaughter, dude.
Contracts are contracts. Got to read the fine print.
Hey, look, man. Grandpa, I'm tired of these noon games. That's too damn bad.
It's too dang bad.
Here we go. So Ohio State plays at Wrigley Field this week. I guess I wanted to ask you thoughts about playing in Chicago. Do you like playing on a baseball field? Are you worried about the grass? Last year, Wrigley Field maybe wasn't the best in terms of some grass coming up. I like the grass. I don't know if I like Wrigley Field. I guess they won't be going back to the locker rooms, but they'll be going to the bullpens during halftime to sit down and work through some things. So thoughts playing at Wrigley Field? They're playing Northwestern this week.
My biggest concern is always the playing surface when you see games like this in stadiums that don't traditionally host football games. They do a really good job of transforming these playing surfaces when Premier League teams come across the pond and play here.
Yeah, so you're a soccer guy. I guess I hadn't thought. I mean, you might be the expert on this topic.
They do a really good job of that, but you saw last year, not so much for the Iowa Northwestern game in Wrigley. You've seen issues on these surfaces before when they try to transform them. So I feel like the biggest thing here is I'm fine with these stadium games. I think they're really cool. I think they give you really, really cool shots on the broadcast, a really cool experience for fans to go see a game somewhere that they wouldn't normally get an opportunity to see. But I do feel like they do risk the players' health a lot with these playing surfaces. And I'm just fingers crossed that they're able to get this one ready in time. And like I said, they seem to be able to do it for soccer teams. I don't know why there's less of a care taken for football surfaces.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like if it was an Ohio State home game, I'll be really irritated if they played that game anywhere but the shoe. But the fact that it's Northwestern, I know Northwestern's going through some construction, and Wrigley Field's such a historic place. They got the ivy, there's brick behind it, and I'm a baseball guy, so like I have a special place in my heart for Wrigley. But I always think it's weird when football teams play on baseball fields. I mean, it makes me think. I know it's not going to be this obvious, but it makes me think about the Oakland Raiders and what they had to go through playing on the Oakland A's field, like for half the year, all the lines on it. But we'll see. I'm really worried about the players. I'm worried about our offensive linemen, given the fact that that's the position that's gone through a decent amount of injury. We did see a defensive change this last week. Really unique, man. Jim Knowles, his whole time at Oklahoma State, it was all about the Leo. The Jack is what it's called now. But it was the Leo then. And we were told all year we're not going to get that. So just give it up. It's not happening. Larry's getting his guys. We're going hand in the dirt, this, that, and the third. Against Purdue, I don't know if this is like, okay, like it's a holiday break, you can have it. But they ran a lot of different defensive looks, man.
Absolutely. And I wanted to ask you, do you feel like this is a signal of things to come at Ohio State? It feels like Larry Johnson is finally ceding a bit of control when it comes to this defensive line. And something that not necessarily happened on the field, but happened on the depth chart made me think that we're starting to see the dawn of a new era with this defensive line. With Edric Houston, 5-star defensive end, defensive tackle. He committed as a defensive end, but he is now pushing inside the defensive tackle, which leaves the defensive end room bare at Ohio State. You have Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry, the two backups right now. And then behind that, not much. Josh Mickens is there, but again, he fits more of the Jack role and the Leo role than a traditional defensive end. You have a guy like Justin Hill, a 5-star 3-4 linebacker committed to Alabama, right down the road at Winton Woods in Cincinnati, a guy that the Buckeyes were heavily in on, but didn't think that this defense fit his playing style. And you see the Jack position make an appearance on the field this week. And if you look at the roster, it seems like after Larry's last year on his contract with his two guys in Kenyatta and Caden, this defense appears to be going in a different direction.
Yeah, I mean, think about it, Doug. Like, there's literally no underclassmen that we've seen that are in line for major reps at any point. Like, I know people talk about, like, Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry. They're juniors. They're about to be seniors. Obviously, JTT and Jack being seniors. Like there's really nothing behind them. I know people like Mickens, but you said it. Mickens is the Jack Leo. Like, he's not a true hand and dirt defensive end. So maybe you're taking an adjustment. It was something when I watched the game, I was like, huh. Because I don't remember seeing this really since we played Utah in the Rose Bowl with Kate Stover was doing that.
Yeah. And it makes you wonder, like, where else are they going to go? Because this is now the second year in a row, because it wasn't just Edric Houston that kicked inside. Josh Moore committed as a defensive end, and they kicked him inside.
Yeah, man, they're kicking guys inside, and I was surprised because usually you don't take away from a weakness to add to a strength, but that's what they did. CJ Hicks said after the game, "Put me on the effing edge," was the quote. We had to clean that up a little bit. Though, you know what's crazy? You know what I thought about? We let everybody at Ohio State choose their position except for CJ Hicks.
Yeah, we've talked about that on this program multiple times. That is this necessarily the place to be choosing your position and just saying, hey, I want to play this, I want to play that, or we're going to let this guy choose where he goes? It doesn't seem like in the SEC, many guys show up there and go, I don't like this position. I'm going to play here and pick my position. They usually recruit a guy for a role and let him go and learn that position. At Ohio State, we seem to be more willing to move guys around.
No, like, we're willing to let guys pick their positions except for CJ Hicks. So CJ Hicks made it real clear, I want to be a defensive end, and they're not going for it. And like, it makes me think, like, dang, like, Cade Stover got to pick his position and switch like 3 or 4 times. Like, Steel Chambers got to pick his position twice, changed it, and nobody said anything. But CJ Hicks, the guy who probably would be better in a defensive end role. Now, he didn't play very well on Saturday for the most part. But hearing him say, I want to play on the edge, it's like, dang, bro, like, we let everybody pick except for you.
Exactly. And like you said, we did see him on the edge a little bit and missed a few tackles, despite that was one of the things that was a little bit frustrating when you saw these when they mixed up the defensive fronts. We saw a few tackling issues. We saw a few free rushers take bad angles on the quarterback. That's the one thing. If you're going to say, hey, I'm playing out of position, I'm not playing the right position, when you get that opportunity, you have to make the most of it.
Yeah, I guess it just sucks because, like, I think CJ Hicks is really talented, and I think he's a really, really good athlete. And we didn't see him on the field at all. And so, like, for him, see, this is what Ohio State does. When they put guys out there that are juniors and seniors and they make mistakes, it's like, look, see, he can't play. But it's like, well, no, he's making mistakes that a young guy who hasn't played would make. Like, we saw Sonny Styles a lot his freshman year and last year get to go out there and make mistakes. And it's like, okay, it's all right. He's a young guy. But if you wait to get a guy on the field till he's a junior or senior and they make a mistake, it's like, look, that's why we can't play him. And that's kind of one of the big issues.
This feels like Taraja Mitchell 2.0. We have a 5-star linebacker sitting on the roster that they refuse to put on the field in any capacity as a freshman or a sophomore. Then they finally get on the field as a junior or senior, and everyone's like, look, I told you this guy couldn't play. And while he may have still been that same player if he got more reps, we could have been giving those to someone even younger at that point by the time they were a junior if we would have figured out as a freshman or sophomore that they weren't Ohio State caliber and ready to play.
Yeah, no, that's a fact. And also, like, again, like I think if you're going to take a weakness like defensive end and kick Edric Houston inside, I think you're deep at linebacker moving forward. Like I think that Arvell Reese is so good that you got to lock down for the next 2 years easily.
Arvell Reese, it seems like Gabe Powers is
Gabe
someone
Powers
that
has figured it out to
is
me. It looks
figuring
like
things out. Sonny Styles could be back. I do see a question here in the chat that I wanted to ask you. Do we play this recent style of defense when we play a higher ranked team like Indiana? Wow, that sounds weird to say, saying Indiana a higher ranked team, but it looks to be the best team remaining on the Ohio State schedule. Do you think that these defensive looks continue as they play higher ranked opponents?
I don't think so. You know what I think this was? You know, in school, that one teacher that never lets you watch movies. Like you know, we never have a day where we watch movies in class. But the day before winter break, they roll the TV in there. I think that's what that was for Purdue. Like we knew we could handle Purdue, and it was like a chance to maybe get CJ Hicks some burn, get him out there, go 3-man, get some young guys, just see how it looks, see flexibility wise. But you know, once we get to the big games like the Indianas of the world, which that does feel wild to say, and the playoffs, you're going to go back to how we defended. Actually, honestly, wait a second. I just talked myself out of this. Maybe that's the defensive game plan change we see against Oregon, because you can't go the same defense out there again against them, can you? If you get to see them a second time?
I mean, the Buckeyes had very little success getting pressure on Dylan Gabriel in that game. So maybe this is a switch up. I thought you were going in a different direction where you were saying
I was about to go a different direction entirely, and then I thought about Oregon.
I even thought you were going in a different direction, that they were putting this on film as, hey,
the decoy.
Look at all the recruits. Hey, recruits, come be a Jack here. We do have this position. This position does exist. There is a place for you here at Ohio State. Was this a little shout out to a few recruits that the Buckeyes would still like to hear from that said, maybe this scheme isn't right for me, while the Buckeyes are showing, hey, you can do multiple things here at linebacker at Ohio State?
It could be that too. And honestly, it could be the catch-all, right? Like it could be all these things. Because I mean, whenever you hear Nick Saban call the defense antiquated, it's like, dang, like
we got to change something.
Yeah, it's like we got to change something, man. That's an old man calling us antiquated. Like that's not okay. So we'll see. I'm excited though moving forward. I'm excited this week. Like the bad teams, it takes a different kind of fan to watch all the way through. O-line note: they made the Moore semifinalist award for best O-line in the country. Wanted to ask your opinion on that. If someone would have told you that before the year, that this O-line would lose their best player maybe on it and still be a semifinalist, what would you have said?
I would have been shocked. I didn't think coming into this season that this offensive line would be able to survive one injury, let alone two, and to see the way that they've been able to rally and come together and put together this makeshift offensive line. Carson Hinsman steps in. Tegra Shabola locks down the right guard position. Donovan Jackson able to kick out to left tackle. So to see them weather the storm and continue to keep finding guys. When Carson Hinsman went down this past week, I thought, well, I think that is the end of the line. Yeah. I don't think they're going to find any more former Big Ten starters hiding on the roster because they were in the doghouse. I think they need Carson Hinsman to play if they want to have success. Austin Sareveld is going to be a guy that's going to be crucial for this team because he seems next in line of an already thin offensive line. So I'm shocked that they're a semifinalist, but kudos to Justin Fry in getting this team here, because I don't think people were ready to fire Justin Fry, and I'm people preseason due to his recruiting misses. And we said, hey, let's give him the season to see what he's able to do from a developmental standpoint, and to see the guys that he's been able to get on the field and keep this line intact. It just speaks to the coaching job that he's done this season.
It feels weird to say, but I feel like I know what I'm going to get from this offensive line every week. And I find peace in that, I think.
Yeah, it's felt like it's been a few years since the Buckeyes have been able to weather storms like this on the offensive line. We have been thin for a few years on this offensive line, but week in and week out, this offensive line is going to come in and run block, and they're going to be able to move bodies. And I said that's been kind of the calling card of the Justin Fry offensive line throughout his time here. A lot of people talk about toughness at Ohio State. Most of Ohio State's offensive line struggles have been communication and pre-snap penalties in the Justin Fry era. they have moved people and been maulers. And you see, I said the Buckeyes should have no issue running the ball going forward now that they're starting 5 guards on their offensive line. So that's the one thing that you can depend on from these guys, that they're going to come out here and play physical. And I think that has become the calling card of Justin Fry and his offensive line, is a level of physicality that has been lacking in years past.
Against Northwestern, do you want to see them out there for like 3 quarters, 4 quarters, or do you just want them to get out there, go maul, and get out?
Same exact agenda as last week.
Last week, I thought they played too many snaps. I didn't think they needed to snap.
Agreed. And I'm saying last week we came into the game saying that we want them to play depth and stay healthy. And I don't want to see starters risking injury. I feel like the second that this game is in hand, they need to get Donovan Jackson and some of these other guys off the field and give guys an opportunity to play. And you saw their willingness to roll with the mistakes and let guys learn on the fly while they were running the jack position. I hope they have that same leeway with some of these guys on the offensive line while you're trying to keep your line healthy in Wrigley Field.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Line healthy at Wrigley Field. Ron, they did go. They're going early this week. They're going early to go see the field. Ryan Day wants them out there to feel this kind of turf. I mean, this kind of grass. Excuse me. I think they've played on grass one other time this year, and I think that was at Michigan State.
Yeah, I think that's a good call by Ryan Day to get the team out there and let them feel that surface early instead of changing cleats in the middle of games.
Right. Jeremiah Smith, he broke all the freshman records, man. He did it. And we have several games left, it feels like. Broke some 40-year-old records from Chris Carter receiving-wise. You and I were real early on the Jeremiah Smith wave, and he lived up to everything. And this is no shock to us. How nice is it to see a true freshman at Ohio State go out there and absolutely ball?
It feels vindicating to hear them say on the broadcast, this guy may be the best wide receiver in America, because one Ron James was saying the second that he signs his letter of his NIL or NLI, sorry, getting my acronyms messed up. The second that he signed his NLI, he became the best receiver in all of college football. And everybody's like, you're crazy. He's only a senior in high school. He is that good. He is a generational talent, and everybody should appreciate what they're seeing on the TV every week when they watch Jeremiah Smith play, because they are watching history.
Yeah, dude. Who do I compare him to all the time? And I got a lot of heat early, but I'm going to keep saying it. I feel the same way I feel watching him as I felt as a kid watching LeBron James play in the league. Like, #1 pick, all the hype. Obviously, like, I'm from Akron, him being from Akron. Like, him in Cleveland, like, getting chosen one tatted on his back and then immediately being like a top 10 player in the NBA off the rip. Like, that's and I know it's a different sport, but that's the sense I get when I watch him.
It seems like he's known that he was going to be great from a very young age, to the point where I'm pretty sure in an old interview they asked, like, when did you know, like, Jeremiah was going to be that guy? And they're like, when random people started showing up at his games with cameras. It was like 11 or 12 that, like,
doesn't that sound like LeBron though? That's like very Bron-like.
Absolutely, such a sensation that people were showing up at the parks in Florida to see this kid going absolutely crazy.
Yeah. You know, when I used to, go to St. Paul's here in Akron, people used to come watch me play basketball in the gym after games. Now, maybe it's because I was the only black guy that went to church there, but they would come down and watch Chris Drew put up some shots. They thought I was going to make it, man. Little did they know I was not 8. I was indeed 14. No, he broke the wait, here we go. Broke all the records, but I do want to ask about other individual awards. Do you think anybody on this team is going to win an individual award? Like maybe him, Blitnikoff, Caleb Downs, Thorpe Award?
It seems like Jeremiah Smith has the best chance as far as the Blitnikoff, but I don't know how much of a push that they're making for him as a freshman. It even felt like when Marv didn't win it against Jalen Hyatt that they took the approach of, we'll do it next year.
Yeah, I want him to leave Columbus with 2 Blitnikoffs. That's my only one, because 2 Blitnikoffs that put you up there with like Michael Crabtree, Blackman won 2. I think Amari Cooper might have won 2. Like guys of that nature won 2 Blitnikoffs. I think he should. Right now, I believe he's second in all of Power 5 in receiving touchdowns. You know who the leader in college football in receiving yards is?
Is it the Nash kid?
No, it's the tight end from Bowling Green.
Oh, wow. That's crazy that the Buckeyes still don't seem to have an established tight end. Let one go to Cincinnati that's absolutely balling out, and the Ohio Bobcats have just sent their kicker to Alabama in the
Alabama.
transfer portal and has one of the best tight ends in the country. I don't know what
Yeah. No,
the
that's
Buckeyes are doing as far as scouting their own state and the MAC.
how does Bowling Green have the best tight end in all college football? And Ohio State wouldn't grab the wrong MAC tight end.
It's insane.
Oh my goodness gracious! This is not what I ordered. Thorpe Award. Do you think Downs has any chance to win it?
No.
Yeah. It'd be crazy. Like if Jeremiah Smith is, and it's not going to happen, but if Jeremiah Smith was going to lose to Blitnikoff, the one person I'd want him to lose it to is I would want him to lose it to Travis Hunter winning the Blitnikoff and the Thorpe in the same year.
Blitnikoff, Thorpe, and Heisman. I saw someone say he could hit the Triple Crown as a wide receiver corner. I don't think that it's going to happen. A lot of people scoffed at the idea of him winning the Blitnikoff, especially with what some other people are doing. But I mean, what Travis Hunter has done has been absolutely insane. If anyone deserves it, it would have been him.
Like it's crazy. He's the Thorpe final. He's the favorite to win the Thorpe and the favorite to win the Heisman.
It's insane.
Like the Blitnikoff supposed to be the easiest other ones to win. Can I ask you what your Heisman ladder is? Out of curiosity.
It is Travis Hunter, a big gap. Ashton Genty, a big gap. Cam Ward.
You still got Cam up there even after the Georgia Tech loss?
Yeah, I mean, what he's been able to do, he's single-handedly put the University of Miami on his back and has carried them through the ACC.
Okay. That's fair. The playoff rankings came out, Ron, and some SEC fans are very, very, very mad. You have Oregon 1, that's Big Ten. You got Ohio State 2, that's also Big Ten. You got Texas 3, should have been Big Ten. You got Penn State 4, that's Big Ten. Indiana 5, that's Big Ten. 4 of the top 5 teams being Big Ten teams. And honestly, dog, I don't know how you feel. I feel like it's Oregon, Ohio State, big gap, and then everybody else. They're the 2 far and away best teams in the country. Did you have any thoughts on that top 12 that came out yesterday?
I really don't have any complaints about the top 12. I would disagree that there's a big gap between Ohio State and Texas.
I think there's a huge, an astronomical gap, Ron.
I think Texas is right there with those 3 teams. I feel like those are the 3 best teams in the country.
But you love Quinn Ewers. That's it. This is the Quinn Ewers part of you.
Once a Buckeye, always a Buckeye.
They played one ranked team. Their wins are the equivalent to Indiana's wins, and they're not winning by as much.
They have a huge win over Michigan.
So does Indiana. Literally everybody in the top 5 is going to have a win over Michigan except for Penn State.
Fingers crossed. The Buckeyes need to prove it to me first.
Yeah, that's fair. Did you see all the Tennessee fans upset that they got leapfrogged by Indiana?
No.
Oh, dude, they just discovered who Ward Manuel was. Tennessee Barstool said, "Oh, this guy's on the is the committee president, chairman, or whatever," and they were just like in their front and bro, because obviously like Michigan guy, like why is he there? So, but that's fair. Against Northwestern, a couple notes. What are you hoping to see in this game?
Again, the same thing that I hope to see against Purdue. I want to see this team stay healthy, and I want them to see them play depth. You saw Brandon Ennis get targeted multiple times in this game. You saw a lot of guys rotate on the defensive side of the ball. They rotated the entire offensive line. I feel like rotation and health is key here. If they continue to mix it up on the defensive side of the ball, that'll be cool. And yeah, just stay healthy and continue to rotate guys.
Legacy game. This feels like one of those times of the year we get a legacy game. Who do you think it could be?
It has to be one of the tight ends. Jelani Thurman seems to be primed to break out here for the Buckeyes. It seems like the tight end position is waiting to assert itself.
Dude, they're bubbling, dude. They've been playing really well last couple weeks.
Absolutely. And you saw Jelani Thurman be called out on the broadcast for him sealing off a block in the red zone, a huge block that opened up a hole for the Buckeyes on the goal line, and we're able to get a rushing touchdown there. So to see him get involved in the blocking game, we know what type of receiver he is. He's Aaron Nolan's #1 receiver in high school, so we know what he can provide in the pass game. So to see him contributing already in the run game, I think is a big step forward.
I think Carnell's going for 10 catches, 125, and 2 touchdowns.
That would be huge. It's a homecoming for Carnell Tate, the Chicago kid.
That's exactly why I said it. I feel like this is the Carnell Tate welcome home game. Do you think Ohio State will ever pull the starters out before the fourth quarter?
No, no,
I
they
love
don't do it. It's not something that they tend to do. They seem to want to get their stats in and make sure that they get their amount of reps. And especially with a guy like Will that's only been in the system for 1 year, I kind of do understand it.
Yeah. Well, Ron, that's all I've got for this week. Appreciate you for stopping by. Appreciate everybody for stopping by and rocking out. Do the thing so we can do the thing.
Yeah, I mean, appreciate you guys tuning in. A big shout out to Bleacher Report for having us. And you guys know how this ends. It's always go Bucks and, of course, OH.
IO.